You have questions, we have answers. Back with another quick clip. Today, I'm joined by Mike McAndrews, a senior wealth advisor in our Tulsa, Oklahoma office. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, Brian, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, Mike, a question came in. I hope you can answer it. The question is essentially, after all we've been through with some of these crazy markets with the COVID pandemic, if I'm not working with an advisor today, is now the right time to go ahead and seek advice from an advisor? So what are your thoughts?
That's a great question. And it's really interesting because people might think, wow, it'd just be so hard right now. But from our experience, the time to start working with an advisor is when you're ready to start working with an advisor. This just happens to be a challenge, and we're faced with challenges kind of every day throughout our lives. And usually it comes down to, is that challenge something that, we need some expert help with? So, if this is something that forces you into a new situation where, gosh, I don't know how to deal with something, it could be the perfect time. But it's really no different than if we weren't going through this pandemic and you had an event in your life that was driving you to, I need some help. That's the right time to engage an advisor.
When you think about it, what are some of the roadblocks or maybe obstacles that people say, well, I would do it, but whatever reason, right? What do you think some of those roadblocks are in terms of just working with people and doing what you do? That again is a good question. And, I think it's probably two things stand out to me, and they're interesting because they're really easy to solve. One is embarrassment. We run into more people that just feel like the skeleton in their closet is like nobody else's, and they don't want to unveil that to anybody. The fact is, our job is not to be judgmental. We're here to really help. So, judging isn't part of our character because it's not how we're effective at doing this job. So the skeleton in the closets don't matter. The other thing we've learned about skeleton in the closets is your skeleton is generally not that different from a lot of other people's skeletons. So we've probably seen it and we're able to help with it. Thinking about this, the other issue we probably run into more often than not is denial. If I simply put my head in the sand or pretend this doesn't exist, it won't matter. And we all know that's not a good long-term strategy, but this is where working with an advisor can kind of, help a client overcome some of those, harder to grasp, or maybe they're not even hard topics. They're just, I don't want to grasp it. And we can help take some of that burden off. So, once you get through that, just denying that there's something I don't want to deal with, that's why we're here. We're here to help you with your issues. I think sometimes too, those are great answers. I think sometimes too, what we deal with is people don't necessarily know that there's an issue, right? So I'm doing what I'm doing. Maybe it's on autopilot. Maybe I'm really active in managing my finances, but what you don't know could ultimately, potentially hurt you, right? And maybe you're not being as proactive as you could potentially be. So
that's absolutely true. And the neat thing is if you work with an advisor like at Mariner, it's not that we work from a template or have a playbook, but there's a lot of commonality about the approach you take to helping someone develop their individual plan and strategy. So we can help identify a lot of those issues. And that's a great point.
I think a little bit of preventive care, if you will, similar to medicine, can go a long way to help you identify not only what's important to you, but the potential issues that you may not see or that you may not see around the corner. And because, advisors like yourself have been helping folks for so long, to your point earlier, they've probably seen it before, and it's probably not necessarily unique to them. Obviously, there are cases where it can be unique and client situations are unique, but those are really interesting things to think about. So, absolutely. Mike, greatly appreciate you having on the show. One other thing that we should probably address at some point, maybe in a future episode, is now that I'm going to see an advisor, what do I look for in an advisor, right? How do I make sure it's the right advisor for me, qualifications and all things of that nature? So maybe we'll have to have you back
on another show.
Well, I'd love to be back.
Listen, Mike, thanks again for coming on the show today. And for anyone else that has questions or they want to email them in, have answers to those questions, they can go ahead and email qa@marinerwealthadvisors.com. Thanks for watching.